This is Side Effect. I'm Robert Trope, Business Manager.
I'm Karen Kowalski. I'm a developer.
I'm Lena Cobb, a business analyst.
I'm Devon Ware, the architect.
I'm Eric Zabrowski. I'm the developer.
Okay. So the idea of Side Effect is to teach school children the negative effects of alcohol on your decision making and various motor skills. Okay. It's more sensitive than I thought it was. So we have a sort of decision tree type layout with this game that we'll go into more depth with later. But you have a lot of types of decisions like dying due to drunk driving or being sent to jail or something like that. And then small ones like your friends and family not trusting you because you're an alcoholic. I mean, who would trust an alcoholic? All right, so why do this project? We wanted to do this project because we felt that there was a need in classrooms for children to learn lessons like this in a more hands-on manner because, you know, it's easy to not pay attention when a teacher's showing a video. You know, so it's hard to ignore a video game like this. So, yeah. And then some of the negative effects of alcohol that we're trying to remove, or I don't know, I can't remember the word to say. Anyways, you know, teens who drink alcohol as children abuse it, or have been shown to abuse it as adults, and all of those things. Okay, on the key features, Brenda Cobb.
Hi. Okay, so I'm gonna walk around a little bit, if that's okay. So as far as the key features of the game go, we really want to emphasize the fact that we want to have a branching storyline. And so it's not going to be like a lot of other similar games that include, you know, things that are under the title of, say, Drunk Simulator. That was their old name, actually. And what we want to do is that we want this to be story-based because that will make the game more engaging for other people. And so, you know, normally you would take it as kind of a joke game, like, oh, this is what it's like to be drunk, and you're kind of walking around. Well, instead, this will actually show you how your decisions affect you and other people around you as well over the long term. So, I mean, long-term effects of your decisions. So that's a really big one that we really want to include. And because of that, we will have interactions with NPCs or non-player characters, and that will highlight some of the things like impaired judgment when you're under the influence, which I'll talk about later. It's really cool. And things like interpersonal relationships, and also like kind of irresponsible decisions that you can make that will influence all of these things as well. So everything is really closely connected. Another thing that we really want to do is, like I said here, bring your textbook back to life. So usually when you're in a classroom and you're sitting there, you know, you're doing worksheets or you're just remembering things only for the test and you just kind of forget it right away. I mean, even like a video can be ineffective at best. You can tune it out. And so what we want to do is that when we're using this game to make people more engaged in the subject, right when you're at those moments that are really climactic, those really emotional moments, or say like a game over, we want to bring those textbook facts out so that way, when the person goes to read back in that textbook, now they're associating those facts with the things that happened in this game. And so, of course, we also want to include a driving section because that's a very important subject, especially when it comes to alcohol. And as we kind of brushed over before, actually, one in three car accidents that involve like fatalities are actually involved, like have drunk driving somewhere involved inside of it. So that's huge. And of course, we want to have, like I said before, the decision making under the influence. So this is going to be, say, oh, well, you know, we have this decision, you know, 3 different decisions, and one of them looks kind of okay. You're like, oh, okay, I'll go with this. And then because you're under the influence, it'll turn it around. And all of a sudden, that decision that seemed okay is all of a sudden bad. And then that's kind of to simulate that, because that's a little bit hard to simulate in a story or anywhere when you're not intoxicated. So that's how we want to implement that. And programming, Merritt, take over.
Thank you. All right, so our game started out, we started using C# in the Unity environment, but then we found out eventually that it wasn't what we wanted. C#, it's powerful, it's strong, it's a good language to learn for software, but it's not what we wanted. It's not universal enough, it's not lightweight enough. So we continued on, so we turned to Blender. Blender lets us use 3D objects, and it simplifies Unity. Unity is a massive software. It uses a lot of heavy textures, lots of big files. We can't do that. We can't implement that on every platform. So we can't use it on every computer in here. Like if he has a Mac, we can't use it on there. So some 3D objects. This is our original design. So some NPCs, original drafts, protagonists. So us prototyping the project. So NPCs are objects. Each NPC has an individual file that has different types of variables that could be used, and these variables correspond to different actions on the NPC. So in the game we have the cutscenes, which is the majority of it is you click, you interact, it has a corresponding cutscene with it.
Okay. And so the story, the main point of the story is that your decisions shape it. There's no like railroaded plot. What happens is up to you. And obviously your decisions have long-term consequences. Because sometimes when you're talking about the consequences of alcohol, you talk about like getting a DUI or an illegal trouble, but not say what could happen if, because you're irresponsible, your family starts losing their trust in you and all that. And you can have, and some of the various decisions you can make are to choose to drink, and to choose to drink and drive, which will result in a DUI, and to choose to act in a way that would cause you to lose your job, your money, your home, your family, all these very negative things. And a good ending is not impossible, but it is going to be difficult, because the game itself pushes the player toward poor choices. If you only make the obvious choices that the game presents for you, you will get a very bad ending. But better choices do exist, but they're not obvious. An example of this is, you're being pushed towards drinking and driving at the beginning of the game, but you see a poster with a number for a taxi company hanging on a wall, and you can call the number and get a taxi home and not drink and drive, but the game doesn't say, oh, you should do this. There's no one that says, hey, why don't you get this taxi? You have to think of doing that yourself, because that's how it works in real life. And it is possible to die in this game, which is a game over, and then it would go into like talking about why you died, the consequences of your action, how this would affect other people. And you can also get a long jail sentence, say if you were to kill an NPC when you were drinking and driving, and that's also a game over, and it talks about consequences. And I think it's wrong again. Right now with the marketing.
All right, so this is actually one of my favorite parts. As far as the marketing goes, our intended market is kind of schools or organizations that are against, say, like students drinking alcohol, like SADD or MADD, and sometimes also like healthcare and insurance companies. And so, essentially, this the game is marketed towards high school students and middle school students. And the reason for this is, it was mentioned on a previous slide, but we kind of brushed over it. The thing is that at age 15, 35% of teenagers have already tried alcohol. And from then to age 18, it rises up to 65%. So that is a really, really important time frame that we really want to make sure that we hit, because that is when it will be the most relevant. That just happens to be the age group to which the game will be the most engaging. And so that's really where we want to hit the most. And so that's why we're marketing to these people who will be able to bring it then to students, because students will most likely not buy this on their own. They're like, oh wow, this is it teach me about driving and not being an alcoholic. That sounds fantastic. Let me spend money on that. Buy it on Steam right now, And so that's kind of why we're doing that. And so we're planning on, in the future, contacting organizations, but of course first we want to get feedback from users as well. And also in the future we're planning on having a website. And actually two of us have designed a website before, so that was really cool. She's really good at it. So we're super set for that. I'm really excited. The program will be available to be downloaded, but not for free. But we will have like a kind of free trial version or like a demo that will be able to be downloaded. Of course, it will be informative, aesthetically pleasing, everything like that. And this website master over here, Karen Klosky. And of course, we'll be trying to work really hard to make sure that when you Google something like a drunk simulator, we'll hit that top of the search engine results using keywords and advertisements, anything we possibly can. And so when we're looking at the competitions, speaking of, actually really stand out a lot. I mean, you've got other drunk simulator games that say, you know, this is how you'll feel when you're drunk, or this is what things will look like when you're drunk. Like, for example, drunk goggles, which are really popular, actually. We are actually, first of all, made by students for students, so already we understand kind of, we have an idea of what our market, like the people who we're marketing this to wants, our intended audience. And so this also focuses on such a large array of topics as well. We're not just focusing on drunk driving, or this is what the world looks like when we put on these goggles and all of a sudden we can't walk in a straight line. You know, this is the long-term effects. And that's going to be one of the major things, because not only does that make it more engaging, but it also makes a much more powerful message that you can carry on throughout your life. And that's the kind of goal that we're going for. And so yeah, that's also some more reasons why it's a little more different than similar projects.
Challenges. As far as challenges went in the project, we didn't know each other well, that's one of them, but as Merrick mentioned before, our main challenge was we wanted to shift from C# programming to Java programming. We went into Java later on into the project. And another challenge that we had with that, like it coincided, making a video game or a simulator takes a lot of time. You might know, if you played video games in the past, it takes a long time for sequels to come out. There's a video game called Sims, but that takes a long time to create because there's so many aspects of the video game. So that's another reason why it's an important challenge to our project. And procrastination, that's every teen's problem. But the way to handle that is work efficiently. And I think by separating the jobs as we did, we handled that fine for, the project's long. So, next, technical issues. Our school, it provides a great amount of equipment for us to use, but we're not allowed to use them at certain periods of the day. We need to kind of request beforehand so that we can use the equipment. But we have a lot of equipment that we can use, and we use it all. One of the resources that we use were called Blender, and we use that for the objects in the project, just like Merrick is working on and still has many objects. That takes up a lot of space, so we need to have lots of lots of USBs. We have to have storage online, and well, you know. So pivots. As mentioned before, we shifted from the Drunk Simulator 2016 project to Side Effect because it deals with more challenges in people's lives. Like, say you had an uncle, he became an alcoholic in his life, and that changed his entire story. Your family thinks of him a different way. That didn't just change his life, that changed everyone's life. And Side Effect handles those kind of situations. It deals with your life and other people's life. Another pivot, it's not mentioned, but I mentioned before, the pivot was from C# programming to Java programming. And yeah, and in the transition from C# programming to Java programming, that kind of like in Unity, which we used in the beginning, Unity built all of the objects from C#, and that was not efficient at all. Java would be easier for that because you can directly build all of the objects almost immediately. Just you type in the code and you get the objects immediately. So the transition from C# to Java was a great idea.
Robert, me again. So what's next? The next step in our process is primarily programming, because most of what we did was, building the backbone of the system, but we really have to flesh it out so that it can be put out to a wider audience. Also, a big thing that we wanted in this game was like a driving section, so it would show how driving drunk would affect you.
That's the conclusion of your 20-minute presentation, or 15-minute presentation time.
Okay. Questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
It's a very basic question, but how big of a problem is drunk driving? Maybe in deaths per year?
I think Raina was our statistics person.
Approximately.
As far as deaths per year, I'm not entirely super sure, but like I said before, around 1/3 of all fatalities involved in car accidents do have drunk driving involved, so that's gonna end up adding up to a very
Is it
large.
trending up or trending down?
I want to say it's probably trending up as far as.
It trended down,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
there was a legislative acts taken by organizations back, like lobbying organizations like MAD, Moms Against Drunk Driving. That happened in like the 80s. So they pushed that through, so it went down, but now it's starting to rise up. Early 2000s started rising up.
And I'm asking because the next step had a driving section part of the game.
Right.
If I were to project yourself out 5 years where ride sharing, self-driving cars become more prominent, this might become less of an issue where the driving part of your game is a lot less of a significance than the consequences part of the game.
What about, so your target audience is middle school and high school. Do you see the problem of drunk driving occurring at that level at a high statistic? Is 1/3 of fatalities related to all drunk driving or drunk driving related to underage drunk drivers?
That statistic was, oh, sorry.
Okay, well, I was gonna say, what we're really trying to do with the middle school and high school is catch it early, teach the kids the lesson early, because by the time they're in their 20s, it's too late, you know?
So it's preventative more than
Yes,
reactionary?
yes.
So do you guys have a demo that we can see?
Yeah, since I was working on it the whole time. Yeah. So, turns out I'm showing my laptop. This computer is set up. It's just not loading the files properly. So, you just want to like you walk by and like,
Sure.
there's a bunch of files.
We can
You can put it in like one place. You
Yep,
can
that's
also-
it.
The game, the designated
Do I
game
get, am I playing? Am I gonna be a player? Or we just-
Yeah.
No, no, I'm just gonna run
Careful.
some animations because the way you built it, it's like this, right? So they're all files. So here we have this little tab through a view. Here's the animation that runs through here. We couldn't finish it because we don't have access to the proper hardware. But once you finish the animation, it runs smoothly on a computer. Just like this part right here, the scene. This is one of the beginning bar scenes. We're still working on adding it. So here's the flowchart we were going to demonstrate. We also have some of our old files here too to show you guys. This is the new cup we made, the new glass. There's some graphical improvements. I have the old one running. What else? The file.
So are these for cutscenes or are these for interactive gameplay?
So the game works like that. So you have like options. So it plays like an animation. So you walk in a bar, it shows you walking in, and then there's like a couple options you can select. Now each option has a different animation associated with it. So you kind of just go through it and you see what happens. So it's like
a visual novel.
Like the butterfly effect, right? Every decision affects the end effect. Every time you make a decision, it changes what happens. So you can go through and play the game 20 times and have different endings every time.
Now, when you say there's different decisions, so I'm looking at an empty room and I can click on that sign or that podium or this, or am I seeing like,
Yeah.
pick A, B, C from a list?
Yeah,
it's
more
Yeah.
like the second one.
So
ABC.
it prompts you with, say you walk in, what do? You first go over to the bar, see someone, you see one of your friends, go talk to them.
So it gives you a scenario, so it gives you visual scenario, pick a choice.
And then another
Choice
one.
leads to new to effect,
Yes.
Mhm.
choices, effect, and that's your butterfly effect,
Yeah.
as each one is unique.
Yeah.
in
The
how it
reason we went
affects.
with this, because the hardest part, like the most hardware intensive part is the actual creating it on my laptop. Because after that, once you render it out, you can run it on your smartphone. The animations are MP4 format, which is universal. You can run it on anything, iPhones, iPads, everything. So the reason we use Java is because also it is universal just like MP4. So with that together, we can run it on your Surface, the Dell, the MacBook. It runs on everything same way. So that's why I went with that, because the hardest part is actually rendering it. After rendering it, it's really lightweight, easy to run on anything.
If you called a taxi in the beginning, is the game over?
No, because there are still other temptations. But the fact that you've avoided a major one means that things are going better for you to start with. You're not starting out at that big disadvantage. Because this is something I didn't mention earlier, but the way it's set up is, see, you haven't exactly been the most responsible person in the past, and when your boss finds out you got another DUI, he fires you.
So you're already kind of set up towards.
Yeah.
Is that why you said that it's pushing you constantly towards bad choices because you're playing a character that's already made a whole bunch of bad choices?
Yeah.
In a way, yeah.
And partially. And
So
part of-
is your attempt to correct behavior at all, or it's just to give an understanding of the consequences of poor choices?
primarily to show the consequences of choices so people can make better choices for themselves. Hopefully, at least.
In line, that should help to correct others.
And most of our time development is spent in creating these files, .blend files. The reason we like these the most and create a lot of these is because, so you have this file, right? You have the bar stool, which I don't have texture in here. So say you want to take it, Control C, and then put it in a different scene or put it with a different file. So say you want to add it to this file, right? You just click Control V, side, Control V.
That's the conclusion of the 5-minute period.
And it adds another file. So you can, they're portable in the way that you can add them to other ones.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.